Colossians chapter 3, verse 17. Make sure you have your pen and pad. Colossians 3 and 17. And whatsoever you do in word or deed, do all by Shem HaMashiach Yahushua, giving thanks to the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, by Him. All praise to the Heavenly Father, Yahweh. All praises to Him. All praises to Him. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. All praises to Him. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 32. We're going to start off with this. Deuteronomy 32, verse 7. Deuteronomy 32, verse 7. The topic of the class is a special people. A special people is the topic of this class. Deuteronomy 32, verse 7. It reads, remember the days of old. Consider the years of many generations. Ask thy father, and he will show thee. Thy elders, and they will tell you. So he says to remember the days of old, when the Most High divided to the nations their inheritance, when he separated the sons of Adam. He set the bounds of the people according to the number of the children of Israel. Why did he do that? Because they were a special people to him. They were a chosen people to him. He divided all the nations. There's 18 nations total. He divided them from Israel. Okay? Let's go to the Apocrypha, if you have your Apocrypha on hand, because he said he separated the sons of Adam. And we know Adam's sons, started with Cain and Abel, and then Seth, all the way down to Noah. And then Noah had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And then they multiplied, and then you had the 12 tribes of Israel that came out of Shem. Okay, so, and then the other nations that came out of Shem too. So we have to know the chosen line, the chosen seed, the special people that came out, and how that affected the world. Second Ezra, and I'm talking about worlds, not world singular, worlds plural, because every world is a society of a nation. All right. Second Ezra, chapter 6, verse 54. Second Ezra, chapter 6, verse 54. And after these, Adam also, whom thou madest Lord of all thy creatures. He named every one of these creatures. Of him come we all, just like Deuteronomy 32 and 7 said, and the people also whom thou hast chosen. So he's telling you, as he said in Deuteronomy 32 and 8, that he set the bounds according to the nation of Israel, the children of Israel. Those are his chosen. Okay. Verse 55, all this have I spoken before you, O power, because thou madest the world for our sakes. As for the other people, and this angers a lot of the heathen, when you read this out loud in a public setting, they don't know how to deal with this. As for the other people which also come of Adam, thou hast said that they are nothing, but be like unto spit, and has likened the abundance of them unto a drop that falleth from a vessel. He don't even care. You got a full bucket of water and you walking with it and splashing out of it, you ain't going to stop. You're going to keep going. It don't mean nothing. Verse 57, and now, O power, behold, these heathen, which have ever been reputed as nothing, have begun to be lords over us and to devour us. Now, we have to ask ourselves, who are these heathen? Who are they? Who could they possibly be? All right, and this is where you have to get a clue. Being a reader of the Bible, you should also be a detective of the Bible. Because there's clues all throughout the scriptures. Most people who read it aren't looking at it as a detective. They are not detecting problems or answers. Let's go to 1 Ezra in the Apocrypha, chapter 8, and let's get a clue who these heathens are. 1 Ezra, chapter 8, and verse 69. The nation of Israel, the princes, the priests, and Levites, these are the companies within Israel, have not put away from them the strange people of the land, nor the pollutions of the Gentiles. So now it's calling the heathens Gentiles, to which of the Canaanites, Hittites, Perizzites, Jebusites, and the Moabites, who are from the Asian descent of China, Egyptians, and the Edomites, the so-called white men. So he's telling you who the heathen are here. He's teaching us who these Gentiles are. Let's go to Ezra in the Bible, the 66th Bible, and let's go to chapter 9, and we're going to read verse 1. Now, when these things were done, the princes came to me. Who are the princes? Those are the Israelites. They call them young princes, saying, the people of Israel and the priests and the Levites have not separated themselves from the people of the lands, doing according to the abomination. Remember, the Most High set the bounds of Israel according to the people of the land? Even of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Jebusites, the Ammonites. That's different from the other one. Those are the Japanese. The Moabites, the Egyptians, and the Amorites. So these are more Gentiles. More Gentiles. He added to them. Okay? So he's telling us who the heathens are, a.k.a. the Gentiles, a.k.a. other nations. Let's go to Psalms chapter 83. Psalms 83. Let's see some more Gentiles. So we don't get it twisted. We got a bunch of clues, you understand? Because we are detectifying who these heathens, who the Most High is talking about. Because we read 2 Ezra chapter 6, and we really didn't understand. He gave us a broad topic of the heathen, and now we're breaking down who these heathens are. So Psalms chapter 83 is going to tell you a little bit more, and it's going to tell you that these people are against us, just like the Most High said in the beginning. Let's go to verse 5. Psalms chapter 83, verse 5. It says, for they have consulted together with one consent. All those nations that we spoke of are all consenting together. They're all in cahoots. They are confederate against thee. The tabernacles of Edom and the Ishmaelites. Now you just saw more Gentiles. Ishmael wasn't in the other bracket. Of Moab and the Hagarenes, Gebal and Ammon and Amalek, more Edomites. The Philistines with the inhabitants of Tyre. Now the Philistines and the Egyptians are cousins. And Tyre. Ashur, those are brothers that came out of Shem, but those are not the Israelites. Ashur, that's the East Indians. Also is joined with them, they have Hopen, the children of Lot, Moab, and Ammon. So he's saying all the children that came out of Lot are also against us. So we have all these nations against us. And the Most High is breaking it down with the Bible. The prophets are breaking it down for us. That's why we are to believe on the prophets. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 7. Let's get one more clue on who these nations are. Deuteronomy chapter 7. Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 1. Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 1. It reads, when the Most High thy power shall bring thee into the land, whither thou goest to possess it, and have cast out many nations. Now, when he says, whether thou goest to possess it, y'all have to understand, because of the curses, have we went into any land and possessed it since we were in Israel? We haven't went into no other land since the curse and possessed it. Okay? This is how you know that we are the children of Israel. We haven't been into any land, China, Japan, Australia, America, Europe. There's nowhere where we can't even go back into our own land, which was Israel and Africa, and possess it. We cannot. This is giving us a huge clue that we are the Israelites. So let's read on. Because the curses have to fall on somebody, and have cast out many nations before thee. The Hittites, let's give them more nations, and the Girgashites, and the Amorites, and the Canaanites, and the Perizzites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites, 7 nations greater and mightier than thou. Now, when he speaks about all these nations that we just went over, these are all from Ham. Okay? You have Ham, Shem, and Japheth. The Israelites came out of Shem. So all the people that came out of Ham are against us. All the people that came out of Japheth is against us. And all the people that came out of Shem other than the Israelites are against us. Just so you can understand who all these nations are. Israel was separated from all the nations. Verse 2, and when the Most High thy power shall deliver thee, or deliver them before you, thou shalt smite them and utterly destroy them. Thou shalt not make a covenant with them, nor show mercy unto them. Now, with that being said, when we go back to the land, we are not going to show mercy to these people. They get no more mercy. Their mercy runs out when we go back. Everything that they did to us is going to come double on them. They get no mercy. That's a hard pill to swallow for most of us living in America. We've been taught a certain way our whole entire lives to share. You send your child to kindergarten, share with everybody. We've been taught to share. We've been taught about charity at an early age. Even today, look at what Rodney King said. Can we all get along? Can we all get along? We all been taught to share as Negroes and Latinos. We always give. Y'all understand? Charity has always been a big part of our lives because we've had nothing, and we know how it feels to have nothing. So we've always shared. All right? Let's go back to 2nd Ezra chapter 6. 2nd Ezra chapter 6, verse 57. 2nd Ezra chapter 6, verse 57. And now, O power, behold, these heathen, which have ever been reputed as nothing, have begun to be lords over us and to devour us. Do you know when we left Egypt and we went to Edom, Edom made us pay for water? We had to pay them. That nation, the lowest nation, had us pay them. And we're still paying Esau to this day. They don't pay us, we pay them. That's the way it goes. When they give us something, it's out of stinginess. We get the littlest of the little. We get crumbs. They don't know how to share. They don't know how to share with nobody. They don't know what charity truly is. That's why they get no mercy in the kingdom. Verse 58, but we thy people, whom thou hast called thy firstborn, the only begotten, and thy fervent lover, are given into their hands. If the world now be made for our sakes, why do we not possess an inheritance? All right, so we don't possess nothing. We don't possess the land. We don't possess anything. So how is this fitting those people who are calling themselves Jews? It don't fit them. We don't possess anything as Negroes and Latinos and Native Americans. If the world now be made for our sakes, why do we not possess an inheritance with the world? How long shall this endure? So how long will this go on? Until we all repent and start keeping these laws, statutes, and commandments. Some believe Hamashiach is coming to save all those nations that we read about. He told us to stay away from. Let's look in the New Testament, and let's just see if Hamashiach is coming to save them. Let's go to Luke chapter 1. Luke chapter 1, And let's go to verse 68. Remember what we just went over, all the clues that we just brought out about the heathen, who are the Gentiles, who are the other nations. Verse 68. Blessed be the Most High of Israel, for he hath visited and redeemed his people, and hath raised up a horn of salvation for us in the house of his servant David, as he spoke by the mouth of his holy prophets, which have been since the world began, that we should be saved from what? From our enemies. Now you should know who our enemies are, and from the hand of all that hate us. So the Most High told us that these people was going to deal wrongly with us. He told us that we were supposed to possess them. So by us not possessing them, guess what? They turned around and didn't have any mercy on us. It says to perform the mercy, that's why it says that, to perform the mercy promised to our fathers, and to remember his holy covenant, the oath which he swore to our father Abraham, that he would grant unto us that we, being delivered out of the hands of our enemies, might serve him without fear, in holiness and righteousness before him all the days of our life. Now, the interesting thing about this fear is still in existence today. All right? Some of you brothers and sisters who say you are not in fear are really in fear. A lot of our brothers and sisters are in fear. How are we in fear? Brothers and sisters are scared to see what people will say about them if they start wearing their Israelite garments. Still have that little fear in them, what people are going to think, what they're going to say, what they're going to talk behind their backs. There's still a fear in the air. This is why the Most High has to take us out of here, because our people still have a fear here. Even though we are getting our pride, the Most High's pride and our heritage pride, our people still have a fear here. All right? Wearing our beard, brothers still scared to wear their beards. You see some brothers who teach today are still not wearing their beards, scared to wear their beards, over huge congregations not having a beard. That should say a lot to you when a brother don't have nothing. All right? You women, a lot of women are scared to wear head coverings, especially in the working environment, in the business district, because all that kickback, all that putback, you're going to hear from the boss. You're going to hear from the coworkers. Oh, what they gotten into her? A lot of us have gotten used to flaunting worldly images or worldly attire instead of the Most High's dress code. We've gotten used to it. We've gotten so good at wearing worldly stuff that we fit in, if not better than everyone else. But the Most High's dress code, brothers and sisters are still in fear to wear it. Brothers and sisters are scared to put their name on their birth certificate, on their Social Security, change the name. You're allowed to change your name one time as men. You can have one alias, right? Women are allowed to change their last names when they get married. Our name should be Israel. That's a fear. That's why the Most High said he's going to have to save us from this place, because we still live in fear. These are all part of the curses that we're feeling. Nobody else feels like that. The Jewish people, they wear their stuff. The Arab men, they wear their stuff freely. The East Indian women, they wear their stuff. Chinese, they wear their stuff. It's only us who have a problem. We have a problem with our own selves wearing the things that are traditionally ours. We have a problem with that. That's fear. So this is what the Most High is talking about in the book of Luke, that we have fear. Look at Zephaniah chapter 1. Zephaniah chapter 1, verse 6. And them that are turned back from the Most High, and those that have not sought the Most High, nor inquired for him, hold thy peace at the presence of the Most High thy power. For the day of the Most High is at hand. For the Most High hath prepared a sacrifice. He hath bid his guests. All right, who are the guests? This is the wedding that's spoken of in the New Testament. We're supposed to have our garment. Verse 8, And it shall come to pass in the day of the Most High sacrifice that I will punish the princes and the king's children, and as such as are clothed with strange apparel. All right. So the clothing are two things. The clothing are your actual clothing, and the clothing is also your thought process. Do you keep the law, statutes, and commandments in your mind? Do you believe in them? That's a form of clothing. Remember, Adam and Eve, the Most High let them repent, and he clothed them. He restored their minds, okay, to do what was right. Even though they sinned and got put out the garden, he still restored their minds to do right and to teach their children right, and them to teach their children right. So he restored them. How you think Noah came out? Noah followed the tradition. He was clothed with the Most High's understanding. And that came all the way down from Adam, all the way through Seth into Noah. So it's also a form of your mind, the way you think, but it's also physical garments. Basically, the way you think, you're fully convinced if you're wearing it, what you think. If you believe that these covenants are true and you start wearing the garments, you've already been convinced in your mind that these are your tradition. So you wear it. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 32. Let's go back. Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 9. Deuteronomy 32, verse 9. For the Most High's portion is his people. See that? He has a portion, it's us. Like 2nd Ezra said in chapter 6, he says, if the world was made for us, why do we not have a what? Why do we not possess an inheritance with the world? The Most High gave us a portion. For the Most High's portion is his people. Jacob is the lot of his inheritance. If the Most High gave us a portion, within that portion or covenant, everything else comes. Verse 10, he found him in the desert land and in the waste howling wilderness. He led him about, he instructed him, he kept him as the apple of his eye. What is this? This is a romance. This verse is a romance. It's just like when a man first meets his wife. You know, there's a little story behind it. There's always a little story. The Most High is giving us that story right here. In the wilderness, what did he do? He married us. We stood up and married the Most High. He put that ring on our fingers. Okay? There was a wedding going on in the wilderness. We all said, I do to the Father. You understand? It's a marriage. You can't break the vows, man. You break the vows, then judgment comes on you. And that's what happened. The Most High sent his judgment. So the Most High's special people are the Israelites. And all other nations, the Most High said, they are your enemies. Why are they your enemies? Because they deny the Most High. They denied who he got married to. You know, they deny his wife. So how you think a husband gonna feel if you denying his wife? So they got some judgment. Also, the land. Okay? First thing a man does when he gets married to a woman, he got to have a house to go to. Our house is the land of Israel. We are married. All three things go together. And all the nations have prevented us from being there. So what do you think the Most High is going to do? Bring vengeance. Let's go to Micah chapter 5. He's going to bring vengeance on all these people for polluting his wife, basically. It talks about that in Malachi, but we're going to Micah. Micah chapter 5, verse 15. And I will execute vengeance in anger and fury upon the heathen, such as they have not heard. Why? Because he's married to us. He's going after the husbandmen of all these nations, and he's going to destroy them for polluting his wife, the 12 tribes of Israel. That's how serious this thing is. Very, very serious. And why did all this happen again? It started with us being unfaithful. When we were unfaithful, the enemy, the Most High, let the enemy come in and get us. Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 1. Let's go there. Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 1. And it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Most High's power, to observe and to do all his commandments which I command thee this day, that the Most High thy power will set thee on high above all nations of the earth. Now, you know who all the nations are. We already went over it. We went by precept by precept, and brought out all the nations that came against us. Brought out Psalms chapter 83. We went to the various scriptures to show you who the heathens are / Gentiles. And you could go into Genesis chapter 9 through 11, and I'll tell you more about the Gentiles. They came against us by name. All right? Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 2. And all these blessings shall come on thee and overtake thee, if thou shalt hearken unto the voice of the Most High thy power. Blessed shalt thou be in the city, and blessed shalt thou be in the field. Blessed shall be the fruit of thy body, and the fruit of thy ground, and the fruit of thy cattle, the increase of thy kind, and the flocks of thy sheep. Blessed shall be thy basket and thy store. Why? Because he is a husband to us. Everything that we need, he is our protector. Blessed shalt thou be when thou comest in, and blessed shalt thou be when thou goest out. For you fellas, when you have a wife, the wife boasts upon the husband. When another man come around, all she talk about is her husband. Okay? This is the thing that Israel has to be. I'm of the Most High. I keep the law, statutes, commandments. I follow my husband, basically. He taught me statutes, laws, and judgments. He taught me that. So we are learning what we are supposed to do. And if you read, I'm not going to read all of this down, but I'm going to start at 15. If you read all of these things are the blessings that he's going to bestow upon us. And none of these things are in effect today yet. The people claiming to be us don't have these type of blessings. These earthly blessings can't even come close to the blessings that the Most High is going to give. Yeah, they have the world, they have the entire earth, but it's not at the peak of its blessings. You understand? Everything is half done. Verse 15. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto thy voice. Now, let's look at that again, that very first sentence. But it shall come to pass. That means a prophecy. A prophecy is something that comes to pass. This should really make your head go ring, ring. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken, listen unto the voice of the Most High thy power, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. So, who are the they that will pursue you until you perish? Let's keep going. We're going to read about that part. It reads verse 16. Cursed shalt thou be in the city, and cursed shalt thou be in the field. That sounds like now. Cursed shall be thy basket and thy store. Y'all have to know what that word curse is. That curse has about 1,000 definitions. Curse. The shaking of the head when they see you is a curse. The body language or the body gestures of the eyes looking at you up and down is a curse. You turning around and catching somebody looking at you and them turning away of another nation, that's a curse. They're staring at you to try to figure out what you are about. Why is your hair that way? Why are you here? Who are you?
The only thing that was the issue was, the color of my skin, the way I was born. I can't help that.
An exclusive interview tonight with a victim of an alleged hate crime. A woman had a glass bottle and racial slurs hurled at her as she jogged in Queens.
she followed me up the block and was screaming, "Get out of here, go back to Africa, N-word."
People tried to shoo the suspect away. Tiffany was afraid things would escalate.
That's a curse. Verse 18, cursed shall be the fruit of thy body and the fruit of thy land, the increase of thine kind, and the flocks of thy sheep.
That picture shattered on New Year's Day 1923 when a mob of white men invaded Rosewood, burning homes and churches and shooting people as they fled.
They came on the first day of January and they did not stop burning and shooting and hanging and lynching until January the 7th.
Pickett remembers being a young girl at family reunions and listening to the stories from the mouths of survivors.
When I would see the horror on their face, and then they would begin to wail and cry and, console each other. And it was like so emotional, and it was such a vivid picture because this wasn't just something I was reading in a book.
Cursed shalt thou be when thou comest in. Do you know that if we had cows and we had milk that came out the cows and we were selling the milk, that some of these heathens wouldn't even touch our milk that we milk from our cows? They wouldn't even touch our fields, but they wanted it. They rejected anything that we had because they said it was contaminated. Y'all seen that with the pool thing about 10 years ago. The children, I think it's somewhere down in Alabama, the children went swimming. They emptied out the water of the pool and refilled the pool. You know how long that takes to empty a pool out and to refill it again? They did that just because we, the Negroes, jumped in the pool. That is a curse. Verse 19, cursed shalt thou be when thou comest in, and cursed shalt thou be when thou goest out. Whole room change when you step in. Verse 20, the Most High shall send upon thee cursings, vexations, and rebuke, and all that thou settest thy hand unto.
This incident is drawing comparison to other recent confrontations captured on video.
Illegally selling water without a permit?
Including this video where a woman calls the police on a black 8-year-old girl selling water on the sidewalk.
Charcoal grills are not allowed here.
In California, this woman called the cops on a black family barbecuing in the park.
You should not be wearing that in the United States of America.
Okay.
Are you a citizen?
And in a Chicago park, a man harasses a woman for wearing a shirt with a Puerto Rican flag on it.
Is she an American citizen? Why is she wearing that?
The woman asks an officer standing a few yards away for help.
Can you please grab him?
But the officer appears to ignore the confrontation. He has since resigned from the force.
I shall send upon thee cursings, vexations, and rebuke, and all that thou settest thy hand unto, for to do, until thou be destroyed, and until thou perish quickly, because of the wickedness of thy doings, whereby thou hast forsaken me. Does that not sound like us? Cursings, vexations, rebuke. Most of our restaurants that come to existence only last about 10 to 11 months. Then they close. I can name quite a few right now in the Bay Area by name. There's so many different curses that are on us that we don't realize. That's why you see a lot of brothers now that got a little money, they buy these apartments with these storefronts. They get other nations to work in their storefronts. They don't let Jake work in there. They want the image to look like it belongs to another people and not us. Verse 21, the Most High shall make the pestilence cleave unto you until he have consumed you from off the land, whether thou goest to possession. Y'all see that? The Most High is so poetic with this thing. The Most High shall smite thee with a consumption, and with a fever, and with an inflammation, and with extreme burning, and with the sword, and with blasting, and with mildew, and they shall pursue thee until thou perish. The blasting is guns. Okay, they blast us with that. The sword is a gun, could be a pin. Burning, extreme burning, diseases, okay, inflammation, You get inflammation the older you get. If you don't eat right, you get inflammation all through your body. It just pops up, just comes in. You can eat right and still get the inflammation. So all of these things are problems for us based on our diets, based on where we live, based on our actions, based on the curses of us being Israelites. Let me show you how poetic the Most High is to prove that you Negroes and Latinos are the people who sinned against him. Let's go to Psalms chapter 44. Look at this. Tell me if this ain't us. If this ain't us and no other people. Psalms chapter 44, verse 11. Psalms chapter 44, verse 11. It reads, Thou hast given us like sheep appointed for meat, and hast scattered us among the heathen. Think about that. We were sheep appointed for meat. We were scattered to the rest of the nations. I mean, no matter where you look, we were scattered. We were scattered to China. We were scattered to the Arab nation. Do you know that China looked at Africa as strictly a slave country? They looked at it as nothing else but a slave country. Do you know in Ethiopia, we were also slaves in Ethiopia? Do y'all know that? We were slaves there too. We were slaves in East India, Pakistan, all these different stands, Kyrgyzstan, all these different places. We were slaves there. Do you know that Japan had us as slaves? Do you know that China had islands off of the coast of China that Japan would not visit, but China would put slaves on those islands, and you wonder why the people on those different islands are dark skinned? All those little bitty islands underneath China, those were all slaves from Africa. So when you see the Philippines and all of them, and they look black, that's why. Okay? We were scattered all in there, Korea, Vietnam, all them different places. We were there. Because they wouldn't let us live in their cities. They would rather us live on islands and commute into the city to work, just like they do over in the Bahamas today with some of those islands. A lot of the people don't even live on some of the islands. They have to commute to the islands by boat and then go back home by boat. They don't want us being around the tourists. Verse 11, Thou hast given us like sheep appointed for meat, and hast scattered us among the heathen. Thou sellest thy people for naught, and doeth not increase thy wealth by their price. All of us that were sold for high price, say you was a healthy bull coming over here.
To the screen.
Mandingo! Mandingo! 4,000. I'll pay more. 500 more.
A healthy mandingo. You were sold at the highest price, but it didn't help your wealth. It didn't help you. You were still poor. You still had nothing. You still had nothing. You were still a slave. No matter how high you was purchased, you were still a slave. Isn't that something? Thou makest us a reproach to our neighbors, a scorn and a derision to them that are round about. Now, if you stay in a neighborhood and all your neighbors are not Israel, best believe when they have friends over and they be talking, they see you pop out and pop back in your house, best believe they say, oh, yeah, we got one black guy on the corner. He stay right there. That's a curse. Verse 13, Thou makest a reproach to our neighbors, a scorn and a derision to them that are round about us. Thou makest us a byword among the heathen. Now, do the Jewish people get a byword? People are happy to have those Jewish people live in their neighborhoods. Thou makest us a byword among the heathen, a shaking of the head among the people. They be shaking their heads when they see you, especially when you don't fit the mold, when you're not building up to be just like them. They want you to be like them or better. Okay? So we have to look at this and understand that these curses are about us. Verse 15, My confusion is continually before me, and the shame of my face have covered me. Now, my confusion is continually before me. What is that confusion? All these brothers that are trying to be elite, or trying to be elite like Esau, but don't have this knowledge or the understanding of this truth. It confuses them when things happen to them. Like, why is this happening to me? I went to school, I went to Harvard, I got my PhD. It confuses them. They don't understand, like, what's his name? They got arrested because he lost his keys and climbed through his window. Oh, Henry Louis Gates, that's him. Henry Louis Gates. This man teaches at Harvard, got all his degrees, friends with the president, lost his keys in his neighborhood, tried to go through his front door, door's locked. So he figured he climbed through a window he probably left open. Police just happened to be driving by, saw him and arrested him. Didn't believe who he was. Took him to jail.
6 days after Henry Louis Gates, a distinguished African-American professor at Harvard, was arrested at his home for disorderly conduct, the incident has reached all the way to the White House and reignited discussions about racial profiling.
I don't know, not having been there and not seeing all the facts, what role race played in that.
And not seeing all the facts, what role race played in that.
Been there and not seeing all the facts, what role race played in that. But I think it's fair to say, number one, any of us would be pretty angry. Number two, that the Cambridge police acted stupidly.
Police initially responded to a call from a woman in Gates's neighborhood who reported someone was trying to break into the house. Gates was arrested after getting into a confrontation with officers. The president didn't single out the arresting officer, Sergeant James Crowley, but it turns out that Crowley was handpicked by a black police commissioner in a different Massachusetts city to teach recruits about racial profiling. Thursday, Crowley's boss defended him and said his department was stung by the president's words.
I believe that Sergeant Crowley acted in a way that is consistent with his training at the department and consistent with national standards of law enforcement protocol. I do not believe his actions in any way were racially motivated.
The president tempered his remarks Thursday, saying he was surprised by the hubbub over his comments Wednesday, and he said he understands Crowley to be an outstanding police officer. Crowley said although he supports Obama, he thinks the president's comments went too far. Gates, meanwhile, has described the 11-year Cambridge police veteran as a rogue cop and has demanded an apology. He said he may sue the department. As for Crowley, he says he has no reason to apologize.
Obama had to bail him out. Hey, curses. That don't happen to nobody else but us. It don't happen to nobody else but us. We fit the curses. Now, is that poetically exact or what? Is that right to the point or what? How about this one? Let's look at Psalms 106. Psalms 106, verse 26. Psalms 106, verse 26. And it reads, therefore he lifted up his hand against them. Against who? The Israelites. To overthrow them in the wilderness. We got overthrown in the wilderness. To overthrow their seed also among the nations. And to scatter them in the lands. We were scattered in the lands. But understand when he says to overthrow them in the wilderness, y'all got to understand this overthrow, what it means. To overthrow us in the wilderness. Just imagine the beast of the field can't wait to get to you, but the Most High is holding back. Just imagine all the nations that are round about are ready to kill you, to hurt you, to degrade you, to rape your women, to beat up the men and humiliate them. The Most High was holding all that back, just like he was holding the Red Sea back when we went through the waters in Egypt. He was holding all that back. And then when we failed to do what he commanded, he just threw his hands up. I'm done with these kids. Done with them. Threw his hands up, and what happened? The waters came crashing down. All the heathen came crashing down on us. All the beasts of the field came crashing down on us. You see? You wonder why we're still in our enemy's land? The Most High let it crash down on us. This is why he's going to have to pluck us out. The Most High threw his hands up on us because we disobeyed him. That's what it means to be overthrown. What about to be pursued until you perish by the heathen? to be pursued. We saw Roots, right? Y'all remember some of them slave movies? The Most High put a spirit on Esau to never stop chasing you. He put a spirit on them Edomites. Here you running from the slaves. You done got a whole night. You left late or early in the morning. They wake up at 9, 10 o'clock. They figure out you gone. Then they start chasing you. He put a spirit on them to catch you, to chase you until you passed out. They even went as far as putting up wanted signs saying dead or alive. That's the spirit of the Most High. Until you perish. Deuteronomy 28. About Deuteronomy 28. If that ain't us, who is it? Let's read that again. This is verse 22. The Most High shall smite thee with a consumption, and with a fever, and with inflammation, and with an extreme burning, and with the sword, and with blasting, and with mildew. Y'all clothes is mildewed. We didn't have washing machine and dryers. And they shall pursue thee until thou perish. Y'all ever see them old slave pictures? And you see the clothes on the slaves, they look all torn. And them clothes are mildew. And it wasn't brand new to begin with. They was hand-me-downs. Okay? We didn't get no brand new clothes. Most of those clothes probably was 50 years old with holes and stuff in it. Stink, everything else. Them clothes mildew, but they pursued us until we perish. And those slave chasers, those bounty hunters, the Most High put a spirit on them to chase us until we perished. You know what I mean? Even other Edomites who saw us, they felt sorry for us and was trying to stop it. Guess what? The Most High's vengeance, he put it on those slave catchers to take them and string them up and hang them just for helping you. You know, that's the spirit of the Most High. You see all that he did and still don't know that we are the Israelites. We broke the Most High's commandments. Even today, we let another nation convince us that we are still not the Israelites. We let other nations do that to us. At the same time, the Most High is kicking our butts because we won't repent. What is wrong with us? The Most High is showing us all these things. Deuteronomy chapter 28. Look at Deuteronomy 28 and 15 again. Deuteronomy 28 and 15. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Most High thy power, to observe to do all his commandments and statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. This came to pass. We're still going through it today. The first sentence says it all. It came to pass. It will come to pass. Let's look at verse 23. And the heaven that is over thy head shall be brass. Now, that one right there, brothers and sisters, be scratching their head. And the earth that is under thee shall be iron. We sitting in these buildings and these houses, and a Negro mind don't know the Most High is being poetic with our daily living situations. We got brass over our head right now. It's copper. You know what run through those copper? It's copper pipes. In those copper pipes, it always run in the ceiling, guess what, or on the wall, water. We got water running through those copper pipes. We got copper over our head. The Most High, look, when we lived in Israel, we didn't have these kind of buildings. We was going to get our water at the well, outside. The Most High is being poetic with this. He said, in the future, you're going to have copper, you're going to have brass over your head. Then he says, you're going to have iron underneath your feet. A Negro still can't get that concept. They sitting in prison houses and don't realize they're building these buildings to prevent them from getting out. All through these concrete walls, floors, ceilings, you got copper and you got rebar. Iron rebar all through it. Underneath the house foundation, you got iron rebar inside the concrete so the concrete don't crack. So the Most High is being poetic with this thing. And the heaven that is over thy head shall be brass, and the earth that is under thee shall be iron. You walk on the sidewalks, you walk on the street. We do most of our dirt in the streets. I'm from the streets. Iron all underneath the streets. That wasn't in Israel. We didn't have that in Africa. Rebar. We did things differently there. Okay? So the Most High is talking about now these curses. All these things have what? Come to pass. The Most High wants us to wake up. Let's go to Deuteronomy 28 and 24. The Most High shall make the rain of thy land powder and dust. From heaven shall it come down upon thee until thou be destroyed. Now, I mean, most of y'all live in the cities and the country. In the countries, you got wood mills. In the cities, you got oil factories. You got that down south too. But all these factories give off pollutants. You got powder, smoke coming out of these different factories, pushing it up into the sky, into the atmosphere. And then what is it going to do? Fall right back down on you. You got controlled fire burns by the fire departments in certain parts of the country. What happens? Ashes go up in there and they fall down on you. You got chemtrails, planes flying over you. They spray in the sky pesticides. You got powder and dust falling on you. This didn't happen during the time when we lived in Israel. It says, from heaven shall it come down upon you. Let's go to verse 25. To the average Negro, it's going to take a volume, a pill to figure this out. And it's going to take a Motrin to take the pain away from his headache that he's going to get from figuring it out. Verse 25. The Most High shall cause thee to be smitten before thine enemies. Thou shalt go out one way against them, and flee 7 ways before them, and shall be removed into all the kingdoms of the earth. I mean, this is simple. Just look at your brothers that be on the streets that's up to no good. When the police show up and they got their sirens on, what's the first thing your brothers do? Pew! They flee 7 ways. You can't catch them. Poetic justice is what it is. Verse 26, and thy carcass shall be meat to all the fowls of the air, and unto the beasts of the earth, and no man shall fray them away. Now, this happened in Africa, but even today, this thing still happens. Who's the number one person being killed in America? The so-called black men and Hispanic men. What happens when a Negro get killed on the streets? What's the first thing the investigators do? He takes some yellow tape. He'd take it all the way around that person. And the brother that got killed be all contorted up on the ground, leg this way. And then the insects, they start to multiply on that person before they bag them up. And nobody fray them away because they're trying to figure out what happened during this incident. This thing is still going on. The Most High is still poetic with these curses. Verse 27. The Most High will smite thee with the botch of Egypt, and with the hemorrhoids, and with the scab, and with the itch, whereof thou canst not be healed. He said, you can't be healed. Now, this is going on too today. Now, in Egypt, you wonder how those pyramids got built. Brothers had to pick those big blocks up to put them on that pyramid. But these brothers still ain't learned. They still lifting 500 pounds in the weight room, going to in shape in 24 hours, trying to show off for the women, bench pressing 350 pounds, and can't understand why they got hemorrhoids, pushing their guts out. So, I mean, this thing is still going on too. And then our diets, the things that we eat. If you eat the improper diets and not the dietary diet that the Most High gave us, it's going to mess up your stomach, and you're going to get constipated, and you're going to be pushing that thing out. You're going to have problems, internal problems. The Most High is smart and intelligent. He knows what he's talking about. We got to understand how the Most High is thinking here. He's thinking about the future that we're living in today. Verse 28, the Most High shall smite thee with madness and blindness and astonishment of heart. Verse 29, and thou shalt grope at noonday, as the blind gropeth in darkness, and thou shalt not prosper in thy ways, and thou shalt be only oppressed and spoiled evermore. And no man shall save you. Our people are still looking for saviors to this day. They need somebody to depend on. Obama was the president. They thought that was their savior. Trump got in office. They started looking for another savior. Couldn't find one. So they started looking at some of the sisters and put a sister in office. We have to understand our people are always looking in the wrong place. They refuse to believe the laws of the Bible and the prophecies of the Bible, and they want to believe in something tangible that they can see. And it always fails them. Verse 30, thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her. Thou shalt build an house, and thou shalt not dwell therein. Why did the Most High put this curse here? Because of what we did to him. See that? This happened to the Most High. So this is eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. This is why he did this. If you don't keep the law, statutes, commandments, you will lose your wife this way.
Very good. And you say that no man has touched her?
Not one.
On your honor?
What man would be rash enough to stake his honor on a woman's virtue?
She seems to be drugged.
She is as lively as an unbroken colt.
What price are you asking for her?
$200,000.
That's a high price, even for a virgin.
There is inflation, Your Highness, even for virgins.
Thou shalt plant a vineyard, and shalt not gather the grapes thereof. Thine ox shall be slain before thine eyes, and thou shalt not eat thereof. Thine ass shall be violently taken away. A lot of this happened during the slavery days, and a lot of this happened after we came out of slavery. And shall not be restored to thee. Thy sheep shall be given unto thine enemies, and thou shalt have none to rescue them. Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people. And that happened. It's still happening through the adoption system. And thine eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the day long, and there shall be no might in thine hand. I believe we were on this conference call last week talking about this, or I may have seen it on TV somewhere, but it said over 1 million brothers have disappeared in the last 5 years. Not to even mention the sisters. Just disappeared. Nobody knows what happened to them. They didn't find their bodies. Just totally just disappeared. There is a war within a war here in America dealing with the 12 tribes of Israel that we don't know anything about. Verse 33, the fruit of thy land and all thy labors shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up, and thou shalt be only oppressed and crushed always. We are all struggling to make it in this land. So that thou shalt be mad for the sight of thine eyes, which thou shalt see. I'll read that again. So that thou shalt be mad for the sight of thine eyes, which thou shalt see. Our people are still angry today. What do you see on the news right now? You see blacks always fighting for what? Justice. It ain't stopped. It's been going on for years, the same old thing. Some people are tired of hearing it. Some of these white folks, I'm tired of hearing about these blacks always wanting something. Our people are mad and don't understand why. They just want to fight. They just want to get recognition. We try to do things more tastefully, but it's really still aimed to please the wrong audience. Verse 35. The Most High shall smite thee in the knees and the legs with a sore botch. They cannot be healed. From the sole of thy foot unto the top of thy head. A lot of us have nerve-ending problems in our hands and our feet. Okay? A lot of us have these problems. The Most High shall bring thee and thy king, which thou shalt set over thee, unto a nation which neither thou nor thy father have known. And there shalt thou serve other gods, wood and stone. You have the cross, here today, and you have what? The Kaaba stone. And you have these other gods, these other Buddha and different statues and different restaurants and things like that. Verse 37, and thou shalt become an astonishment. It's funny because my 8-year-old granddaughter, she says to me, Papa, she says, why do they still have these stone gods if the Bible says that you're not supposed to have them? Even the 8-year-old can see that this is wrong. Even the 8-year-old. Okay? This is how destroyed our minds are as the adults in this land. Okay? Verse 37, and thou shalt become an astonishment and a proverb and a byword among all nations, whether the Most High shall lead thee. Isn't this true? Thou shalt carry much seed out into the field, and shalt gather but little in, for the locusts. We don't even gather seed at all now. They don't even have to worry about us on this part. We don't even do it. Some of us do. Some of us do, but even down south, I know the city where my grandparents was at. When I was little, everybody had a garden. Now you go down there, nobody got a garden. All the kids done left and moved to the city. And the old towns are just dying off because there ain't no jobs there. Verse 39, thou shalt plant vineyards and dress them, but shalt neither drink of the wine nor gather the grapes, for the worms shall eat them. Let's speed up here. Let's go to verse 48 or 46. These are the things that we're supposed to keep that it's not mentioned of in the Christian churches today. They don't even mention the stuff. They don't even mention the repercussions for us breaking the commandments. They talk about Israel failed, but they don't even talk about why and how and what was going to come to them for keeping the laws, statutes, commandments. Okay? They don't even bring that stuff up. Verse 46, and they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever. Because thou servest not the Most High thy power with joyfulness and with gladness of heart, for the abundance of all things. Hey, that's what it comes down to, being fully convinced in your mind about this truth. We have to be fully convinced. Verse 48, therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which the Most High shall send against thee in hunger, grocery stores, McDonald's, Burger King, all these different fast food places. I mean, you have to really look at where these fast food chains are. They're not in the white communities. They're in the ghettos, in the black and Latino community, or on the side of the freeway. And in thirst and in nakedness and in want of all things, we depend on these nations for all things. Everything that we have, we depend on them. Now, we try to set up our little stocks and bonds and things like that, but because we see them doing it, we figure we got an edge. But for the most part, we're trying to be just like them. The Most High says, envy not the oppressor. Envy not him. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he have destroyed you. All right? So we have to always be mindful of this yoke because it still exists. You don't want to fall back into this yoke. Verse 49, the Most High shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth. What is the emblem of America? It's the eagle. What is the emblem of Europe? The eagle. They got a two-headed eagle over in Germany. Okay? It's the eagle. All the northern countries are the eagle. A nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand. We do not understand this language of English. And a lot of our brothers still don't understand English. We still speak broken language. A lot of our brothers. I mean, you watch some of the sports world, when they get ready to do interviews, brothers try to straighten themselves up to talk right. As soon as they get away from that microphone, they go right back to talking Hebrew. I say Hebrew because it's broken English. A nation of fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person of the old, nor show favor to the young. And he shall eat the fruit of thy cattle and the fruit of thy land until thou be destroyed, which also shall not leave thee either corn, wine, or oil, or the increase of thy kind, or flocks of thy sheep, until he have destroyed thee.
charts and a couple of tables just to paint a little bit of a picture that you already know. Okay, so what this presentation is fundamentally designed to say is this. Africa, historically, sub-Saharan Africa, has been fundamental to the global prosperity of the advanced countries. Okay? And Africa had a role to play. It has a role as a raw material producer. We will not allow sub-Saharan Africa to escape that. Okay, we do everything to keep sub-Saharan Africa where it is, also impoverished. It's absolutely vital for the prosperity of everyone else. So let's get clear about that. Okay, and this means all the economic structures, all the global institutions, and the economics we teach everyone is all designed to keep Africa exactly where it is. And whether it is Europe or US or now China, it's always the same. We need Africa to be impoverished because we need those raw materials and we need them dirt cheap. Okay, so that's the message. It doesn't mean to say that there's nothing Africans can do. Of course there is. Okay, but this is the opposition that they're fighting. This is what it's about. Because if Africa does do something different, I assure you living standards of all those in Europe and North America and Asia is going to fall. Okay? And that is a big price to pay. I assure you that the West is not going to allow that without a big fight. Okay, so this is what it's fundamentally about. What I want to show you is how these structures are operating. It's just 20 minutes, so we can't do very much, but just to give you a little bit of an idea. And why I keep the ideology part there is because we are part of the producers of ideology. At universities and academic institutions, we are complicit in this whole enterprise. Okay, so the job of many Western...
This is the word of the Lord of hosts. I took you from the pastures and from following the sheep to be prince over my people Israel. I have been with you wherever you have gone and have destroyed all the enemies in your path. I will make you a great name among the great ones of the earth. I will assign a place for my people in Israel. There I will plant them, and they shall dwell in their own land.